Mythical Pokémon, the rarest subset of monsters in the entire series. The main gimmick for these Pokémon is that they're event exclusive, meaning you can't just get them whenever you wish, but instead need to hope that an event will come, one that you can participate in, to get these elusive creatures. This dates all the way back to the original games, where to get Mew you had to go to an in-person event to get one. If you could not go, or the likely scenario of there being no event near you, you were just out of luck. 9 generations in and we still come up with this problem. Sure, the addition of Wi-Fi events make them a lot more widespread, but if you miss the window, you're still stuck with that hole in the Pokédex. However, this is not always the case. For there are in fact times where a mythical isn't just event exclusive, but obtainable whenever you please. And the first case of this actually might be earlier than you would think. All the way back in Generation 3, we got the game Pokémon Colosseum, and if you pre-ordered this game, you would get a bonus disc. This was mostly a promotional item, but it holds the first ever case of our forever available Mythicals. In Japan, the bonus disc grants you access to Celebi, with the requirement that you've beaten Colosseum and have purified every Shadow Pokémon. After achieving this task, you are able to distribute 48 Celebi before you have to start over to get a new stock. North America was a lot more lenient with their bonus disc, as it just gave out Jirachi. No strings attached, just an unlimited number of Jirachi to give out. The PAL region, not receiving bonus discs for Colosseum, they get their own unique way to give out Jirachi, being a gift from Pokemon Channel. So we've had 2 Mythicals that have always been obtainable since all the way back in the 3rd generation, and it's crazy to think about, given how long we'd have to wait for the next time this would happen. Okay, well, Generation 4 has a strong technicality on this list, and it comes from Manaphy. You can get a Manaphy egg from Pokemon Ranger and send it over to a Gen 4 game. The catch is that Pokemon Ranger has 1 egg per cartridge. Not 1 per save, but 1 per cart. This means that technically there is a finite amount of these eggs, but it is possible to buy a copy of Pokemon Ranger that still has the egg on it, and thus you can still transfer it over. Also, if you have the means, you can fully reset the cartridge, which will restore the egg on the cart. Like I said, a pretty strong technicality. This isn't all for Manaphy here though, as Manaphy can breed with Ditto to produce Fione, the black sheep of the Mythicals. A Pokemon that is in the limbo of is it or is it not a Mythical. It can be obtained an infinite amount of times, but it is completely reliant on owning a Manaphy, kind of like a package deal. While we would get many events over the years, it would not be until Generation 6's Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire where we would see a new entry onto this list, being Deoxys. In this game's epilogue, you fly into space on Rayquaza and fight a wild Deoxys. An incredibly hype moment, as for the first time, a Mythical is catchable in a mainline game with no restrictions. No time-limited event or anything. You can start a new save file today and still catch it. It is unfortunately shiny locked, so those events of old still have some leg up in that regard. Our very next game, Sun and Moon, did something different. Instead of making an older Mythical just freely obtainable, you can get Magearna, one of the Gen 7 Mythicals, by just scanning a QR code. The codes do not expire, and so you can get a new one every single playthrough. This was a hopeful look forward to what things may come in regards to the availability of these Pokemon. Our next stop is actually in the past, for when we got Pokemon Crystal on the 3DS Virtual Console, the original Japan-exclusive Celebi event was made available worldwide, meaning everyone can catch a Celebi, and even shiny hunt it, whenever they may please. Well, that is if you bought the game. The 3DS eShop has since shut down, so if you didn't already own the game, you are out of luck, unless you look towards alternative means. And that's it for the pre-Switch era of Pokemon. 6 out of 18 Mythicals that can be obtained whenever you may please. A solid third, but there's still so many locked to the wills of the creators, only released when they see fit. Alright, now is when we shall talk about Pokemon Go. Pokemon Go has a lot of Mythicals obtainable in it, including ones that are still locked to the time-limited events in the main series. These are a kinda gray area, and so I'm only going to mention the 2 exclusive to this game, Meltan and its evolution Melmetal. These Pokemon are originals to Pokemon Go. Every time you send a Pokemon to either Let's Go or Pokemon Home, you get access to the mysterious box, which will continually spawn Meltan for an hour, so it is very easy to get. Melmetal, on the other hand, requires 400 candy to evolve, and it can only evolve in Pokemon Go, meaning if you transfer a beloved Meltan to the main series, it's going to be stuck that way. There's also a bonus Melmetal gift you can receive the first time you send a Pokemon from Go to Home, and it's a really special one, as it's the only way to get the extra elusive G-Max Melmetal. Before we continue, I would just like to ask that if you are enjoying the video, please consider leaving a like or even subscribing, as both truly do help out the channel. Also, I would love to hear from you in the comments down below. The Switch era of Pokemon starts us off with Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee. These games only contain the original 151, as well as Meltan and Melmetal. Those two, as you would probably assume, are exclusive to being transferred in from Go, and that just leaves Mew. Mew cannot be transferred from Go to Let's Go, and it's not catchable in-game, so how do you get it? Well, that's right, by buying a separate controller that works exclusively with these games. The Pokeball Plus, a Pokeball-shaped controller, contains a Mew you can transfer to the Let's Go games. Big emphasis on the A there. There's only one, so once you get your Mew, there's no more. So if you buy a used Pokeball Plus looking for Mew, you're most likely out of luck. It's like a more extreme version of the Ranger Manaphy egg. But if you do find a new one, it's unlikely but not impossible, you can still get the Let's Go Mew. When Sword and Shield came around, it'd be a while before we'd see a new Mythical. And when we did, it was just another code distribution for the Pokemon Zarude. This one had the added bonus of codes not properly being sent through the Trainer Club emails like they should have, so a bunch of people just missed out on the first distribution. So, in a way, Zarude is actually one of the least accessible Mythicals overall. Sword and Shield has a tad bit of a redemption, however, for in the second DLC, the Crown Tundra, there's a Mythical that is catchable. No time-limited events, no strings attached. If you catch all 3 of the Swords of Justice and take them to a small little island by the big tree, set up camp and make some curry, when you leave the camp, a Keldeo will have spawned. This Keldeo is unfortunately shiny locked, but it is forever catchable if you have the DLC. In the event of the eShop servers ever going down, they actually released a version of Sword and Shield with both DLCs already on the cartridge, so Keldeo is forever in the clear. Moving on, we come to the faithful remakes, Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. The Manaphy egg was turned into a time-limited event like the returning Shaman and Darkrai events. However, these games do have some not event-exclusive Mythicals, but they all require you owning other games. In Floroma Town, there's an elderly couple that will give you a Mew if you have Let's Go save data, and a Jirachi if you have Sword or Shield save data. And then there's also Arceus, who you can even shiny hunt in this game, but at the cost of needing to complete all the main quests in Legend Arceus. Speaking of, Legends Arceus is the undisputed king of obtainable Mythicals. This game has a whopping 5 whole Mythicals you can catch at any time, but each of them requires some work. First up, the big dog itself, Arceus, is obtained after a boss fight with it during the final main quest in the game. Next up is Manaphy and Fione. In the Canalave library in BDSP, there's a book that talks about the Sea Prince. This book mentioned a Mantike, a Buizel, and a weird quillfish with large spikes sailing out through the ocean's gate at sunset. Well, in Legends Arceus, if you have a Mantike, Buizel, and an Overquill in your party, in that exact order, and swim through the giant spikes in the Cobalt Coastlands waters at sunset, you will hear Manaphy's cry. Manaphy and 3 Fione will now be waiting for you in the Seaside Hollow. That's 3 down, now for the last 2. Both of these require save data from other games to access their respective quests. First up is Darkrai, who is obtainable if you have save data from either Brilliant Diamond or Shining Pearl, and then there is Shaman, who requires save data from either Sword or Shield to be obtainable. These ones are a bit of an iffy spot, like with the Mythicals in BDSP, as to get them, you need save files from different games. But on the other hand, there is no time gate. As long as you get the games, no matter when, you'll always be able to access these events. Obviously way better than the time-limited events of old, especially since you can borrow copies from your friends and play for like 5 minutes to just make a simple save and never play again. But it's still not just quite as simple as them being accessible with just your one copy of the game. Our final main game stop is with Scarlet and Violet, where we didn't get anything mythical until the second DLC, where Meloetta is catchable after following a few simple steps. First, you buy the camera app upgrades to get the sepia filter. Then you go to a very specific spot in the coastal biome in the terrarium. Once you get to the spot, you will spin your character clockwise for a few seconds, then open your camera, change to the sepia filter, and look around till you see Meloetta, and now you can leave the camera and battle her. Super simple, straightforward stuff. Now, you'd probably think this is where I say this is just like Keldeo, since Scarlet and Violet also got re-releases with all their DLCs. But that actually released before DLC 2, so it's only accessible after an update, so there's not an actual reason for this cartridge to exist. These games also get their own unique Mythical in Petrarunt, who has a whole hour-long story epilogue attached to it. Super cool except for the fact that it's a mystery gift. One that'll seemingly never expire, but when the servers do eventually close, it'll cease to be accessible right alongside Meloetta. The complete package re-releases releasing before the DLC was even fully out, just to rush a quick holiday sales boost, is one of the dumbest ideas Pokemon Company has ever made, and they've been making a lot of those lately. There's one last place to mention before wrapping up, and that's Pokemon Home, which has a few gift Pokemon. I already mentioned the G-Max Melmetal you can get, but there's also 2 more Mythicals you can get. You can get the original color Magearna by completing the National Dex up until Eternatus. It may seem weird, but this reward has been around since like the beginning of Home, and they just never updated the requirements to actually get it. This form of Magearna is completely exclusive to Home, and it's just a nice reward for those who have been playing these games for such a long time. The other Mythical available through Home is Shiny Meloetta, a gift for completing all 3 Scarlet and Violet Pokedexes in Home. A nice reward for the people who really put in the time in the newest release, kind of like a nice opposite to the Magearna. When they announced this Meloetta, They also mentioned that there will be rewards for the other in-game Pokédexes at some point, so we can expect more in the future. Maybe like a shiny Keldeo for the Sword and Shield Pokédexes, but that one is just speculation. Alright, with the Switch era factored in, we now have a whopping 15 out of 23 Mythicals available permanently, being Mew, Celebi, Jirachi, Deoxys, Fione, Manaphy, Darkrai, Shaman, Arceus, Keldeo, Meloetta, Magearna, Meltan, Melmetal, and Pecharunt. Only 8 remain as locked to time-limited events, being Victini, Genesect, Diancie, Hoopa, Volcanion, Marshadow, Zeraora, and Zarude. If Legends Dead to A is like Legends Arceus, with having all Pokemon introduced in the region it's based on, we should be able to move Diancie, Hoopa, and Volcanion to the permanently obtainable column. It's been a very slow rollout over many years and generations, but this subset of Pokemon that are known for being so rare and elusive are becoming less and less so. We're at a point in time where more are becoming just always available than there are ones being introduced. This time next year, we should have at most 5 that you can't just in some way go and get whenever you want. The age of Mythicals being event-exclusive Pokemon is coming to an end, and I, for one, am glad to see it. Pokemon should always be accessible. There shouldn't be times where a Pokemon is locked inside of a storage application, nor should there be times where you have to wait actual years for a chance to even just get one. Alright, I think that covers all I wanted to cover. The time-limited events where you could catch the Mythicals were ones I debated about including, but I feel like it just kind of made the video a bit cluttered. There's also fan servers and distribution carts that cover the Gens 3, 4, and 5 event Pokemon, but those are unintended methods of acquiring them, so I just steered clear. Alright, if you made it to the end, thank you so much for watching. If I missed anything, yell at me about it in the comments. This has been Big Blast 99, and I hope you all have yourselves a goddamn good one.